Jewelry designs that are a little bit different and yet very customizable are my favorites. And today I have a really lovely one for you. I'm making it in shades of antique gold and red, thinking of Valentine's Day coming up. But as always, you can customize it however you like. This design begins with beads, and for my sort of focal beads, I have these 8mm check fire polish waterfall cut. They really have an interesting kind of diagonal cut in the color cyan. I also have some accent beads. These are 3mm check fire polish beads. And I'll have links to where you can find this at the blog post. The other thing you will need is something to go in the center. And it can be a piece of filigree. It can be as simple as a ring. But I like the idea of using a filigree and really giving this kind of a vintage Valentine look, as I titled it. So I went digging through my stash. I have no idea where most of these came from. And looked for a few different pieces. What I was looking for was something that had places I could loop my chains on both sides, and then I also wanted to be able to dangle something from the bottom, although you don't have to do that. So this would work really nicely. It's got a loop here and these on the sides. If you wanted to keep it simple and minimal, you could use this and flip it over, and then you have the loop for a dangle and these loops on these sides for the chains. Or something like this, which is a connector, and there's loops on either side, and I look carefully at this one and probably orient it this way so that you could dangle something from this larger hole down here. Or even this would be pretty, and you could do this, let's see, in order to have a dangle from the bottom, you'd have to put it diagonally, which I think looks nicer anyways. I ended up deciding to use this piece, and it has to go the long way up and down so that I'll have a way to dangle something from the center. Again, you can skip that part. Also, to make it a little bit fancy, I have some little bead caps for my 8mm pieces. And I have some little itty bitty 2mm brass beads to go on either side of these 3mm check glass beads. And to make this a little bit simpler, I'm using eye pins just to simplify the process. So you'll need 5 of these larger beads. You could use 9 and have them on each end, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. It always amazes me how much adding a bead cap really just accents and makes a bead so much fancier. So from that to that, what a difference. And I'm going really simple today and using my one-step looper to make the loops. If it bugs you that your loops may not be the exact same size, then just make them all with a piece of wire and the looper, or your round nose pliers and wire cutters. I'm going to make sure and have my loop facing me so that I'm looking through it. That way, when I make the loop with my looper, both of these are facing the same way. I think it gives just a more cohesive look on the finished necklace. It's just a detail. Sometimes when working with fine gauge wire, can you see that? The loop doesn't close completely when you use the pliers. And actually I'm going to grab this with my round nose pliers, bend it back, and then kind of stuff that in there. I'm going to make the loop just a little bigger and make sure it's fully closed. And so there. And you make 5 of those. And here are a few that I made earlier. Next, you'll want to make some connectors with your accent beads. You can make as many of these as you like. You'll need 10 for the main part of the necklace with the drapey bits, I guess you would call it. And then you can just make as many as you want to go as far around the back of the necklace as you like. You can go all the way around the back, or you could just go part way and fill in the rest of the way with some chain. And it's done the exact same way that you did the bigger ones, except we're just using a bead. Another nice alternative, if you can find them small enough, would be little bitty daisy spacers on either side of these beads. That would look pretty. It really accents these beads and gives it just a nice kind of vintage look. That's what it makes me think of anyways. And this bead often, on several of these, as I was making them and testing this, they would slide right up in that space. So you really have to make sure with the finer gauge wire, I think 20 gauge is ideal for the looper. I think the loops come out perfect. And then they come out just a little bit different with each other's size of wire. So there's that. And you're going to make a bunch of those. And here's some of those I made earlier. I think I ended up making 22, so I have my 10 and then 6 on each side. Now you want to connect some of these together. You're going to make 2 pairs of 2. Just open one. And make 2 of those. And then you're going to make 2 sets of 3. I love these bent nose, chain nose pliers. It's just easy to get in small spaces. So there's a set of 3. And here's another one. So we have our 2 sets of 2 and our 2 sets of 3. Now to each of those, you're going to attach one of these larger beads. And if you want, like I said earlier, you could use 9. If you want, you could attach one to each end. Of these strands of 2 and 3. You know, to make this go a lot quicker, if you want, you can buy in the craft stores these days chain like this, all made up with little beads, and it's just a long beaded chain. You can buy that and then just take apart the pieces you want, and it would save a lot of time. You probably would be a little bit more limited. You definitely would be a little bit more limited in the choices of beads and colors and such that you use. But if you wanted to put something together quickly, that's what you could do. While I'm putting these together, let me let you know about something new I have going on. I'll tell you about it first. I need to make an announcement. I tell you what, my month of January, I feel like the entire month I've just been playing catch up or just barely keeping up. I think I need to stop some things, but I don't know what. I think I've got too much on my plate. I'm pretty good about saying no to things that I don't have time for, but I tell you what, I just feel like there isn't enough time in the day, and I am pretty efficient. I don't waste a lot of time. But what I have started is on Amazon, I have a page of products, and it's just for products that I recommend for my viewers. So I've got these pliers and the one-step looper and wire cutters, and I've also got all kinds of jewelry making supplies like the bead board, and I've got polymer clay supplies. But it's all supplies that I recommend, so you can go there and know that anything on that board are the tools and materials that I recommend you use for your work. These are really basic tools. These are not expensive, pricey. Most of them are between $10 and $15. There are nicer and more expensive ones out there, and I hope to get them someday. That'd be fun. But I've been using these for years, and they've been fantastic. Oh yes, one more little thing. I want to take one of these 3mm beads, and before I drop this and spill these tiny beads everywhere, I'll put the clamp on. And I think somewhere, didn't I have, what did I do with it? Ah, a single lonely head pin. This is just a little ball head pin. I think I'll put one of these beads on. Yeah. And this will just be part of the dangle in the center. Should I add another little one or not? Let's see. Yes. Yes. Okay. And I'll just, won't even close it quite yet. I'll pop on the 5th and final, or 9th and final, depending on what you do with it, 8mm bead, and make sure that loop is closed up securely. And that'll be our dangle for the center. The next thing you'll want to do is take all of the rest of your little bead links and put them together into a chain like this. This is what I was talking about. You may have seen something that looks like this at your craft store, that you can just buy the chain all made. And I actually thought I had some and was going to use it for this project, but then I found I didn't have any, so that's fine because I get to show you how to do it. It's pretty simple, really. It's just open a loop, close a loop, open a loop, close a loop. So I'll put the rest of these together to make my chain, and then we can put our necklace together. We're actually nearly done. Of course, you could do this with wrapped loops. It would look fancier, and it would take, I don't know, 10 times longer. Which is why I'm not doing it with wrapped loops. I should have one more of these somewhere. Ah. There. So what you should have, I think there's 6 components. You should have 2 that have, let's see, where are they? Goodness, get organized here. Okay, you should have 2 that have 2 links with the small beads and 1 big bead on each, or 1 big bead on each end, and 2 with the 3 small beads and 1 or 2 beads, big beads on it. You should have, oh, so you should have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, you should have a center one with whatever you want to decorate and hang down the middle, and then 2 longer ones that will go on the sides. Again, this can be as long as you want it to be. It can go around the back of the necklace. I'm going to do just this much and then finish the rest with chain. Mostly because I'm just not in the mood for making any more loops. Laziness inspired design. So this is going this way. This part may take a little bit of experimentation to figure out the best places to put these. So the way I'm going to do this is put the short one on top and then the long one underneath, and because it's longer, it will drape down below it rather gracefully. This is what I meant, that if you wanted to add more, you could, although if your beads are too big, it may be bulky at that point. But you could add more. Yeah, this was a fun way to use these one-off pieces of filigree that, you know, I think I got that in a Fire Mountain Gems order. They have a dealio called the Boss's Bead Bag. And for like $6 or $7, you get a pound of beads. It's all random. I guess the idea was that one day the boss dropped a big tray full of beads on the floor. And and it was, they have a rule at Fire Mountain Gems, if you drop it, you clean it up. If you make the mess, you clean it up. And rather than resort them all, he just threw them all in a bag and sold them that way. I've gotten some nice things in those bags, and I've gotten a bunch of stuff that I've gotten rid of and given away. I think it was these two, but I may have to test that and see. Another thing you could do here is just make one more of those connectors and then have them both attached to that. That would be pretty too. In fact, I may try that just to experiment. But I was saying about the filigree, so I've got in my bead boxes, I've got a lot of those pieces that were kind of random. It's like, I don't know what that is. And actually, in a way, that sort of inspired my Friday Findings series, because I had all these little bits and pieces and I knew they did something, but I didn't know what. And so I went looking it up and said, oh, that's what that does. That's actually really cool. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're attaching these little chains to whatever you attach them to on this side is you don't want to twist them up. Like they won't hang nice. So I just twisted that and you could see it's all kind of wonky. We want to make sure that they're lying just the way they want to lie, really, when you attach them, so that they'll hang nicely and drape well. So pop that one on. And then the top one. So I'm just kind of letting it dangle down and grabbing it facing the way it wants to face. Close that up. Oh, I think I like that. It's hard to show here, but you can see this one, the lower one, is longer, and so it just hangs down in that really pretty scallop. And to finish this side, I'll pop on my little chain, my beaded chain. So it's not quite finished because I have to pop on the link chain. Oh, I like that in the middle there. That's nice. All right, so instead of, so you could do 5 or 7 or 9. I like that. So then I have some just fine chain here. If you need to, you can use some jump rings to attach it. It depends on the sizes of everything that you're using. Today I'm making something a little delicate. I don't always do that. More often my stuff is more chunky. There we go. And where's my dangle? Here it is. Pop that on. Now is that going to hang? I think I'm going to add that with a jump ring. I have these oval jump rings. I think that will make that hang more nicely. So the bottom loop of the filigree and the top loop of the dangle. Oh, that's pretty. So then you just add the other side in the same way. You may have to try it on and see how this hangs, and you may find you want to adjust the position. If you have multiple holes, you could also add more strands of the beaded chain and make them longer. There are so many variations that you can do on this design. You don't have to have a fancy piece of filigree in the center. What if you just had some kind of connector that had 2 loops? You know, like a bezel that's got a loop on each side for like a bracelet connector. Or some kind of pendant. If you have a metal pendant that only has 1 hole, you could use a screw punch and add a second hole and a third hole for the dangle in the middle. You don't even have to have something fancy here. You could just have them all attach into a ring, even a largish jump ring, or what would be pretty, like a twisted jump ring, something maybe slightly decorative. Or how about a big honkin' ring, like a hammered metal ring, and get a really funky look. So many different ways you can vary this. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the video, that I love that you can take this basic design and run with it and do all different sorts of things. Well, you get the idea. I need to make another one of these to go on this end. Yeah, I like that. So if you're interested in the supplies, I will have a list on the blog post that accompanies this video, and I will have links to as many of the products as I can find links to for you.